this the no nuke movement. How am I going to get preoccupied with mantra and meditating and let the no nuke, the nuclear proliferation continue? Don't I have to take an active part in my society? Is
this is a dialogue I've had with Dan Ellsberg all winter about this, and it's an interesting one, because it turns out that the quieter you get, the more you hear that in order to fulfill your incarnation, to live in the world, you honor what your incarnation is about. I mean, I have to find out what it means that I'm a Jew, what it means that I'm a man, what it means that I'm part of this family, part of this society, part of this country, part of this ecosystem, part of this species, etc. And as I tune to that, I find myself at the anti-nuclear demonstrations and involved just out of the sense of my part in the whole thing, not out of ought or should or fear, but it's like an intuitive sense. You can't not act while you're in a form. Forms act. There's no way they don't. So if you're sitting at home, you are in a certain way supporting the existing system. There's no, you're an active person, even though you're doing nothing. By not doing anything. Right. There's no way not to act.
Right.
And then you begin to feel the way in which your acts are harmonious with your deepest understanding of the universe. And to me, quietly supporting the act of pushing a button which could massacre 600 million to 1 billion people, including oneself, in order to be right, just is off the wall.
Right. How right do you have to be?
So intuitively it doesn't feel right, and that leads me to something else.
Because I always thought, it's very interesting, because I always felt, back being in the 60s and 70s, the movement, the peace movement, and the anti-Vietnam movement, all that kind of thing, I always felt that the meditators, the yogi types, were kind of wimpy about this.
Absolutely, they were. Absolutely, and we've had lots of dialogues. Allen Ginsberg and all these guys, we've all talked about this, Jerry Rubin, for years, because there was a polarization at that point. Right. And I think what's happened now and in the 80s is a very clear awareness that you can't go away from, that's pushing something away. You can't push anything away and be free. Before we were trying to get high, now I think we want to be free. And to be free means to be fully human, as well as fully be, as Christ said, in the world but not of the world.
So it sounds like, you know, you just said before we wanted to be high, and now we want to be free. It's like almost, we were high, what can we bring back from being
exactly.
high?
It's integrating.
From being high?
It's integrating so that your highs and lows are both here. They're both what you are. Instead of like a yo-yo, for years, all I did was better living through chemistry. I go up, I come down, I go up, I come down, until pretty soon I realized that high and low were both part of my being. And instead of pushing the lows, I used to have a world. I can't go to the family because they bring me down. And I got to get high. Mm-hmm. Until finally I realized that the bringing down was stuff in me. It was my clinging.
You said before you had to find out what you were as a Jew. You were raised Jewish.
Yeah.
I assume with all the trappings that go with being raised Jewish.
Sort of in a superficial way. I mean, social, political. I was bar mitzvahed and confirmed. And
right.
Yeah. Learned the brachis.
Did that have anything to do with your turning toward Eastern religion? Was it a turning off from one religion to another?
I think that the psychedelics had more to do with my turning to Eastern religion.
Oh, really?
Because they allowed me to touch parts of my being that the religion that I was involved with had nothing to say about in the form that I had been taught it. Now, there is in Judaism the Hasidic movement, and there is the Kabbalah and so on, but that wasn't part of my conservative Jewish training.
No, I don't think that happened too often.
Exactly, and now as I come back from my Eastern training and so on, I come in and I see that in the Western religions, in the Middle Eastern religions, there are all of the same maps, but those maps weren't being focused upon because the religions were serving different people.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask when I was reading over your stuff. Isn't a lot of it about semantics? Isn't Buddha another name for the same kind of things that other religions say to achieve? I get on the street, somebody says reach Godhead, and isn't that the same thing as
except most Western religions really don't go beyond dualism. They don't go beyond a relationship to God. They don't allow you to come into the final merging, the final mystic union where you are God. I mean, there's only one of it. They're monotheistic. They say there's only one God, but it's like there's one God in you, Sam, you know. But there's only one God. It includes Satan, it includes everything. That's God. It includes this table. This is it. And we are God made manifest. This is the whole dance right here.
In a dualistic religion,
you're always mea culping, you know, mea culping.
Right.
If I was only a little purer, somehow I could be. You know, we're busy protesting our humanity rather than embracing our divinity.
That has a lot to do with original sin, then.
Oh, it
Original
does. You
sin
have
is
to
like-
finally embrace original sin. Not mean become evil, but mean acknowledge and allow your humanity fully, as well as most of us can't handle our own beauty. We can't handle our own power. We can't handle our own responsibility. We can't take responsibility for the fact that we're creating the universe. We're busy being the victims. We're constantly being had. We're being karmic packages that have been had rather than that which creates the effect.
Well, that's
It's bizarre.
Another thought I had was with the Eastern sense of the Eastern religion having a sense of passiveness about reality, almost complacency. This is where my lot, this is my karma, I'm going to live it out, and I'll be reincarnated, is no more different to me than pie in the sky when I die kind of thing.
If it were only intellectual, it would indeed be that. But let's say you were tuned to that part of yourself which doesn't die. Like Ramana Maharshi, a beautiful Indian saint, was dying, and they said, his body was dying, they said, don't leave us, don't leave us. And he said, don't be silly, where could I go? I mean, I'm only selling my Ford, you know, I'm only dropping my body, it's no big deal.
So what does happen then? Where did he go? I mean, this may sound like a really dumb question, but where did he go?
He's right here. The body left, he's right here.
Isn't that another kind of pat answer for
Only
death?
if you're in your mind, then all those things look like pat answers. If you're clinging to philosophical materialism, all of that seems glib and just rationalization to avoid fear. If you have touched that part of yourself that has nothing to do with time, space, life, death, I mean, that's what being with my guru was about. That's what acid was about. That's what all of this stuff were doorways to those places in my own being. And it has a lot of, I have a different feeling about death, a different feeling about, I'm in a 1931 model right here. And I have a 74 mg and a 31 body, and that's the way it is.
Can that not happen through other religions? That
can happen through a leaf falling if you're ready. I mean, it happens when you're ripe for it. The information's available to everybody all the time. That's what's so bizarre. It's not something you get from outside. It's something that you recognize when you're ready to recognize it. Everybody's having these experiences. That's what William James said. It's around all the time. Like you have channels, like a television selector on your eyeballs. Channel 1, bodies, you see bodies, man, woman, dark, light, old, young. Channel 2, personalities, the MMPI, you see happy, sad, social roles, interviewer, interviewee, you know, all these roles. Channel 3, Aries, Sagittarius, you see astral identities. These are all individual differences. Channel 4, I look into your eyes and I see another being looking back at me. Are you in there? I'm in here. How'd you get in that package? And you see those other things. Channel 1, 2, and 3 is packaging. Right? I mean, if you take off this jacket, you'll still be Paul.
Sure.
If you take off the shirt, you'll still be Paul. The question is, how much can you take off and still be Paul? If the mustache goes, you're still Paul. See, the question is, can you take off your body and still be Paul? What's left? Where does Paul end? Where is who you are? When you say, I am, who is that?
That's the question.
See, I am looking through my eyes. Am I my eyes? No.
Very interesting. We'll be back after a word from our sponsor to talk some more about these things. It's very interesting. You know,
Is this too manic? Should I get more?
No, this is getting very good. I'm going to find it.
Sure, if you'd sit still.
Well, I hate to even take these breaks because this is too interesting.
No, we can go right back.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I know you need the breaks. Sorry, guys.
When everybody's ready.
Everybody's ready. 13?
Yeah.
Ready is
And we can let this one run.
Let it run?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back. Our guest this evening is Baba Ramdas, Dick Alpert, we just found.
That's great.
I wanted to continue, just what we started before the break was, you were talking about what's inside, how much you can take away before you stop being you. As almost like an unfolding of one layer and another layer and another layer, and what's inside.
That's what so far, that's what meditation is when you really go in there.
What's inside. That leads me to my question, it's something you've been working on, is death and dying.
Yeah.
That kind of seems to answer some of those questions about dying.
I have a friend, Emmanuel. He's not embodied. He speaks through a woman named Pat Rodergast. He doesn't have a body at the moment. See, that's hard for you. See?
Well, no, I often said, I always said, you know, in the questions, I've often said to people, if you got to come, you know, reincarnation is one thing. With die, you go to heaven. You die, you go to hell. If I had my choice, I think I'd like to come back as a ghost and haunt people for a while, and then I'll see what's after that. You know, I mean,
Well, Emmanuel's just
annoy
hanging
people.
around helping. He's just a nice guy and a nice being. I don't know that he's a guy. And I said to him, Emmanuel, what do I tell people about death? And he says, tell them it's absolutely safe. Which is an incredible line. I mean, he said it's like taking off a tight shoe.
Uh-huh. That sounds
See, now look at it from the other side.
Yeah.
Just imagine what that feels like. Oh my God, I'm done with that incarnation. Far out, here I am. But I thought I was the incarnation. No, man, why'd you get hung up on that? You fell asleep again. You really took it seriously. You really bought in. You thought you were Paul again.
But doesn't that leave
Far out. We'll send him around again.
Doesn't that leave you a lot of room for non-accomplishment, though? Almost as an excuse for not doing
I
things?
told you, there's no way you can not do anything. What are you going to do? Sit in bed? That's doing something. You got to go to the bathroom? That's doing something. Want to eat?
Yeah, but
Got to get food? Got to go to work? You end up right here doing nothing.
yeah, but it isn't changing your reality. It isn't changing.
See,
There's
the
almost-
quieter you
yeah.
are inside, the less
Yeah.
identified with you. There are statements like, he does nothing and nothing is left undone. Or, there's nothing to do, so get on with it. See, these are levels of consciousness. There's a part of my awareness in which I'm just sitting here, I'm laughing, I'm giggling, I'm not doing anything. I'm just passing time. And then there's this other part, aren't I good? Aren't I a good interviewee?
Right.
I'm a wonderful,
But at the
charming
same-
person. I'm fulfilling my karma. I'm doing my... See, I didn't do that.
Okay. It sounds almost schizophrenic.
It's multi-phrenic. I mean, it's at least that. That's what consciousness is. It's tuning to all the planes all at once.
How would you, as
You used to get high and come down. Now, why do you do that? Why can't you be high and down at the same moment? Can't you giggle and be responsible? Can I go and go to the United Nations and be responsible as a member of society that's concerned about survival? And at the same moment, if it ends, it ends. At the same moment, I'm working to relieve suffering. That's the paradoxes we have to grow to embrace. That it's all perfect and it all stinks.
Well,
those are both true.
what would you, as Richard this is somebody asked me to ask you this question. I go around asking people what to talk to people, you know, when I'm meeting people, and you as Dr. Alpert, psychotherapist.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
If Baba
I'll
Ramdas
be
or
Dr.
Dick
Alpert.
Albert walked into his office, hey, what would you say to that man if he spoke to you? I mean, how would you have?
Oh, if
as
Ramdas walked into the office, Dick Albert would lock him up in a minute. Dr. Alpert.
would have locked him?
Oh, absolutely. He was mad as a hatter.
Because in the one you
Oh,
talk about
I
sitting
think
on the
about-
you talk about
yes.
sitting on the table to a board of psychiatrists.
No, it was
or,
Einstein Medical School,
Einstein
grand
Medical
rounds,
School,
yes.
Right. And you're sitting on the table.
I was sitting on the end of the conference table, and the guys that came in, the old Viennese psychiatrists, thought I was a case rather than a presenter.
Right.
Yeah. It
Would
was lovely. And I
Dr.
presented
Al-
myself as a case.
Dr. Albert would have probably thought the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Poor Dr. Alpert. He's very poignant. He took himself so seriously.
Well, you had everything.
He was busy being good and righteous, and it's just much more fun than that. Even when you're dealing with nuclear stuff and prejudice and starvation. I mean, I'm in blindness projects. I work with hunger stuff with Oxfam. I'm working in prisons. I'm working with dying people. I'm sitting holding dying people, and it doesn't mean you have to get a long, disfigured face to do all that stuff. There's a lightness about it all. It's a beautiful dance. It's a play. It's a delight, including your own melodrama, Paul's drama.
Paul's drama. Well, I
Paul's
often
drama.
view life as a movie. I mean, life
Right.
is
Now,
a
it doesn't
constant
mean,
going movie.
but it doesn't mean you can push it away. That's a dissociative psychological mechanism to say, oh, it's only a movie, so forget it. It isn't only a movie. It is a movie in its full, beautiful, subtle quality of total involvement. I mean, to be free means you're fully human. You are in the world. You're not dabbling in the world. You're not standing back and say, well, I'm beyond all this. I mean, you get up into some places in your head and somebody falls down in front of you and you say, it's karma. What a cold, you know.
It's just time. Too bad.
Yeah, too bad. But if you stay in your heart, it'll burn you out because there's somebody falling and then you go for that person they're falling and that person. Where do you start?
Right. Well, you sound like you're starting with everybody at one time. Prisoners, dying people, these people.
Why not? Why not? As long as you got energy, they got nothing else to do in an incarnation but relieve suffering. I don't know what else to do.
You were from sort of a
How am I going to
privileged-
rip it off?
You were sort of from a privileged class of people.
Privileged. Yeah.
Your
Rich.
family had money. You went to college. You became a Harvard professional. That's kind of easy, I think, for someone with that kind of privilege to take this view of life.
I understand.
How do you pass this on to some poor guy, you know, or...
Well, I'll tell you, I spend a lot of time in India, and I live in villages where maybe somebody's that I hang out with is making 40 cents a day, getting one hot meal and living in with about 8 people in a room. And I look in their eyes and I see a quality of beauty and peace in their being, and they do with what they got to do with. And I don't think you get caught in the drama. You do, if there is prejudice and there is unfairness, you do what you can to right it. But don't get lost in the drama. Do what you can to right it, but don't get feeling sorry for yourself, and don't get caught in these models that make you suffer incredibly. I mean, I've watched people that are making $1 million. I landed an airplane with one of these guys. I was teaching him how to fly in his plane he had bought, and I was teaching him how to fly. And we pulled in a Butler Aviation, and there was his uncle's big jet. And he said, "Oh, God, I wish I had the money to buy a jet like that." I mean, this guy had a brand new 2-engine plane, and he was jealous because of his uncle.
Right, sure.
And I realized there was no, because his uncle had $700 million, and this guy only had $20 million, okay? What's the end of that? There's no end in that one.
Because the uncle probably saw somebody who had a bigger jet and was making $100 million and couldn't wait
Lay
to
not
get
up
that
your
far.
treasures where moth and rust doth corrupt. That's what that's all about. It's a whole different game than that. I don't mean to put down the grace that has come to me from having a family that supported me and gave me an education and all that. Because to me, that's what's beautiful about this culture, that this culture has offered opportunity for us to do this kind of, have this kind of a discussion in a free society. I mean, I honor what this country represents, believe me. I'm not knocking it at all. It's got a lot of failings, but by God, it's still awesome that you and I can sit here and do this.
Sure, well, I wonder about that a lot myself. The thing I was going to ask you is the Western culture, Western civilization has brought more changes to our technological advances, scientific growth, than has the Eastern.
Absolutely.
Isn't that something that's almost necessary? It almost seems that one negates the other.
No, one complements the other, because we now need what they were doing. They were developing maps of the inner spaces, and we now are seeing that no matter how much outer stuff we get, we're not happy. It's not good enough, and it's driving us inward to find a deeper part of our beings, and that's what they've been in business, and they need us at this point. They need that technology because of population problems and of, you know, a lot of epidemiological problems and so on.
So what we really need is a fair exchange.
What we need is a planetary consciousness that honors all of our different trips.
Yeah, and one of the things I read, you said that if you leave the planet, you know, you fly in a spaceship or even an airplane, you don't see all the lines and demarcations of cities or states or
Exactly, you don't
like
see it's green and blue and...
Right, it doesn't look like the map I used to do in school.
You can see that nations are like huge egos, like the Falkland Island thing. They're like, you know, they're like huge egos in pride and, you know, paranoia and all that stuff.
Well, I heard a thing, this may have nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I heard the other day I was working around the house and TV was going, and I heard a commercial about something being Thatcherized. And I thought they were talking about the Falkland Islands, and they were talking about a lawnmower. But it's almost like that, you're talking about the egos. It was, you have to put her name to this kind of, this woman wants to be the Iron Maiden. I mean, she likes that title.
We're all busy living out our myths, and you've got to do that. That's Channel 3. You've got to do that impeccably, too. I mean, your myth as an interviewer or as a searcher after truth.
That's right.
You know, a searcher after truth. We all got great mythic roles, you know. I'm in wise man training, you know. I'm becoming we all have our roles, and we must play them impeccably.
When you're talking about the channels, are you...
Just don't take them too seriously.
Right. When you're talking about channels, are they similar to what Timothy Leary's talking about, the biocircuitry of the brain, where he goes...
No, he's talking about brains. Brains are kind of, they're very low level. I mean, that's just... The left and right brain, that's all reductionistic. It's much more interesting than that. Tim isn't a mystic, basically. He's really a philosophical materialist.
Philosophical materialist.
Yeah. He brings it down to brains and things like that, and that's really not... When your brain is full, when worms are eating your brain, you're still around. See, and that's the one. I mean, I'm hanging out in India with my guru, and like, I go in my Volkswagen bus to visit a temple with 8 people, and I come back, and on the way back, the car won't get up the hill because it's running on 3 cylinders. So I say, everybody get out and push, and 2 girls in the car don't get out and push because they're talking. and I'm bugged because they didn't get out. But I don't say anything because I'm a gentleman. I'm just thinking it. And we push up the hill. We get back in the car, and all the way back I'm kind of tight because they didn't get out and push. And we get back many miles away, walk into the temple, this where Maharaji, my guru, is, and he yells across, Ram Dass is angry, and everybody says, no, he's been very nice. No, he's angry. The women wouldn't get out and push.
Well, how does he?
Okay.
Okay.
How does he know?
How does he know?
He knows because his awareness exists. He's connected to that part of his awareness that exists outside of time and space. So he is wherever he is.
Is that?
You're caught in this thing because you identify with this.
Is that psychic? Is that considered a psychic experience? Is that
I'm
what
sure
we're,
at
we're
least,
talking about?
at least.
When people say they have ESP or psychic experience,
Those are part of the whole bag of when you can move your awareness. They're called siddhis, or psychic powers.
Mm-hmm.
When you can move your awareness back out of time and space, you start to know what isn't available from your particular perspective because you're outside of that space. When I met my guru, the first thing he told me was, you know, I meet this little old man up in the mountains. There's no reason I'm there. He doesn't expect me. I'm a passenger in a car. There's no communication up there. And he's telling me how my mother died in Boston 6 months before and what she died of and how she looked when she died. How does he know that stuff? I wasn't thinking about it.
Is it, are there people that are more, susceptible is not the word, that are almost born into this kind of thing, that they don't need the whole, to go through the whole reborn?
It's just like
kind
a
of thing?
normal curve. Some people are so ripe you could drop a napkin and they'll open. And some people are not going to open in the whole lifetime. They're just going to deny all this stuff all the way through. It has to do with readiness. That's a whole other level of evolution other than Darwinian evolution. The Darwinian evolution is concerned with the package. This evolution is the evolution of consciousness. And some beings are old beings that take a birth. You might have two children, and one is a just post-Neanderthal, and the other is a very ancient llama, who just, they both end up your kids, you know.
In a new incarnation.
Yes, exactly.
Using a new package to walk
to do
around
certain work that they've created to do certain work on themselves.
And this is...
and you can get so far out that you know you created it.
You know you created the...
You know you created it. Paul is your creation. You're busy thinking you're Paul.
I think I've got it. What I am underneath all this is busy constantly creating things to support my belief that I am Paul Ellis, brother of this person, twin brother to that person, and son of that. And that's another...
And what you are behind that is God.
What makes this any different than any normal religion that explains anything else away for me? Than any other religion? Judaism says I'm thus and such, and when I die I'm going to do this and that.
Well,
what makes this any truer? How do you know that this is
How do I know this is true?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. Do I believe this is true? And this is where I left science behind, see, because I'm not longer a scientist. I don't present myself as a scientist, because I don't say I don't believe that this is the way it is. And they say that's psychosis, and I say, well, you got your rights, that's the way it is. I don't know that it's true. I may be completely mad. What difference does it make? I understand what I'm doing, and it feels absolutely valid to me. See, the way your problem is that you want to know you know. You want to play it safe. And if you want to do that, you can never tune to that other part of your being, because that part, by definition, you cannot know you know. You can only be it.
Well, there is
you
a
can be
point,
wise, you can know knowledge. That's a very different place.
but there is a point where it all boils down to absolute faith.
But faith not in something. Faith means that you have connected with these parts of your being, and you just open to them, and that is. It's not faith in, it's faith. It's a connection. It's
just
a connection.
flat out
You
faith.
just are. You're very simple. You're just chopping wood and carrying water.
That sounds like the way I spend most of my winters, chopping wood and carrying
So
water.
the dying project that I have, the Dying Center, is really designed to go from intensive care unit type mentality, which is keep the body uber alles, you know, forget the psychology,
Plugs, wires, tubes.
to the hospice movement, which says let's have a human environment for the person, have their kids and dogs around, and have them die at home if possible, but it's still terrible they're dying, to the next level over, which says, of course everybody dies. If you're going to die, use your dying as a vehicle for awakening, out of the illusion that you're dying. And we'll help you. We aren't professional dyers either, but we would like to hang around dying people in order to awaken, and you're dying and you want to awaken, so we'll help each other stay straight through this heavy melodrama.
And
Okay.
what do you? In
So
one
we
of
have
the
a
books-
place and people come and they die with us.
One of the
It's a
things
great
I also
thing.
read about giving terminal patients LSD, giving them drugs.
Well, we don't do that, but that was done
That
by
has
Eric
been-
Cast and Stan Groff and people like that, sure.
And people,
And National Institute of Mental Health's done some of that research.
that's all now illegal. I mean, you couldn't do that
No, there's some
now.
research going on in that still, yeah.
You could still do that as research.
Yeah, I could never do that because I'm not legitimate. I'm a bad boy in the society.
Right, well, you started most of this.
Well,
LSD experimenting.
Tim started. It was started Aldous Huxley way back, Paris, years back. Been going for years and thousands of years actually.
Well, yeah,
I just was a part of a front team for socializing it.
yeah, you did a lot to bring this,
I brought it onto the street.
you brought it out of the street to the university, and then
Brought it from the university out of the street, more
and then you
like,
brought India or Eastern
to the west.
to the west for Westerners.
I'm what's known
to
as a
try to
Gnostic
digest-
intermediary.
keeping things all straight for everybody else.
Yeah. But now I'm just Dick Alpert, and I'm a Westerner, and I'm, playing my cello, and I drive my little old MG, and I hang out. I do my thing. I march in parades, and I
And spend a lot of your time lecturing.
give my money away.
You give your money away.
Give my money away. I got a foundation. I give my money away to help relieve suffering. I don't know what else to do than relieve suffering in the world. Even though I know that suffering is what the stuff of growth is about. I mean, you look at your childhood and the way you suffered when you were a teenager, things like, remember, you can remember suffering. And now, when you look, you realize, was that a blessing? Was it nachas, or was it horrible? I mean, didn't you grow through those things? If I hadn't suffered in certain ways, I was miserable as a teenager, I wouldn't be here talking with you now. I mean, that's part of what that process was. And we say, oh, that suffering was great, but this suffering, that's different. But when you can get back enough, so you can say, this suffering, far out, look at this one. Boy, this is heavy, dude. Look at this pain. Ooh, boy. And when you meet somebody that's got cancer and they're really in pain, and you're with them in a space which allows the pain and meets them behind the pain, and they come to join you, it blows everybody's mind. Because you're suddenly meeting another entity who happens to be in a body that is undergoing disintegration.
And that entity is going to be around.
And that entity's right here. You here, I'm here. Well, fine. Dropping your body, eh? Yeah.
I think we're through. Yes? We just go out on conversation.
Oh, okay.
We don't. Nobody does any summations around here.
Yeah, let's just hold it.
Hold.
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 We're going to do some reaction shots. What we're going to do is just nod, just sort of nod and look interested.
Nod and look interested.
Yeah.
You couldn't get that before. I was nodding and looking interested through this whole conversation.
We'll do Paul first.
We'll do Paul first. He's going to nod
Okay.
and look interested. I'll nod and
And
look
I'm
interested.
talking to you.
Right.
We don't say anything important at this point.
No,
There's nothing left to say.
Look
Just
him
keep
right in the
looking at him.
face.
Look at him right
You got to look at me. So you got to look right
Keep
beyond.
going.
Who are you?
Smile.
See, if you just keep every thought you have of who you are, let it go, just like clouds crossing the sky. Focus on the sky, not on the clouds. Just keep letting the thoughts go.
They want you in the room.
Once you go talk to one of the guests.
He's coming.
Okay, are we still doing this?
Okay, now we're doing Richard.
Oh, we're doing you.
Reaction shot.
No, we need reaction
I'm
shots from
reacting,
you.
sure.
Right, you're supposed to react to me.
What do you want?
I'm supposed to ask you stupid questions, and you're supposed to react. Whatever they might be. Right. What am I supposed to ask?
How's the
You
weather?
don't have to say
How's the
anything.
weather?
I'm
No,
just
we'll
doing
just
my
react.
reactions. I'm doing them.
Yep. She's having a good time over there.
Okay?
We have enough there, Kurt?
Keep going, Richard.
They like your reaction shots. They like your shots. You got a good face. What can I tell you?
Sleep.
What can I tell you? They have a real good face. That's what they like.
Any more?
We have enough? Yes.
Keep going. You're acting.
Are we ready to go out there? Peg? Find out what's going on, because it sounds like there's going to be a problem over
It
there.
sounds like it,
Yeah.
yes. I hear a
I can
problem
hear.
developing. I hear it too.
Yeah, I sit here.
Another 10 seconds.
Oh, 10
Another
seconds
10
more?
seconds of
Okay.
reaction shots. Okay.
Val's doing a real close-up
Oh, real close up. Look intense. We're getting close.
of his eyes. Good eyes,
Is that a reaction?
Look at the host.
Look at the host.
That's what they always tell you, see, because they don't want you to do that, because that's the
When
one that
Tim-
screws it up.
Right, Tim Leary was sitting here, and he would talk to me, and then every time he had a point to make, he'd look straight in that camera,
Yeah, I know
and
it.
he'd pitch it right
Yeah, I
to
know
the
it.
camera, and I thought it was beautiful.
Okay.
He says,
My headset off.
Yeah, I know.
he says, you got to read my books. Read my books. Buy my books.
We have to go right into Roy,
I'm
Yeah.
fine.
and Lisa's not here yet, but he's got a
Where's Lisa?
Lisa's on the phone.
Reese job.
Lisa's on the
Lisa's
phone.
on the phone.
Okay.
Hey, just take a good shot.
I'm going to take a quick break.
No, that was Peggy.
Let me get up here.
Stay right there.
I'm wired in.
Now
I
you gotta
can't.
think about Atlanta and the children.
Oh, I got to
Ready?
move to different.
Atlanta and the children.
Thank you very much. It's really
Lisa's on the phone.
Reese job.
Lisa's on the
Lisa's
phone.
on the phone.
okay.
Hey, just take a good shot.
I'm going to take a quick break.
No, that was Peggy.
Let me get up
Stay
here.
right there.
I'm wired
Now
in.
you
I
gotta
can't.
think about Atlanta and the children.
Oh, I got to
Ready?
move to different.
Atlanta and the children.
Thank you very much. It's really nice meeting you.